put on the Zoom, please? Great. Very good. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of council of September 11th. It being 4:53, I'll call this meeting to order. Council, so we have the land acknowledgement in our agenda, and we have an agenda details. I think our corporate officer, I think the item 5, we want to remove, am I correct? Start again? Okay. Very good. Okay, thank you. So council for item 5, I understand we'll be removing item E and so staff's with staff's support. So with that modification, a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Without further ado, we'll go to item 4.1, which is the OCP plan and zoning amendment. And I do want to welcome in person Mr. Tyson Baker, Senior Development Planner. Welcome. Nice to see how tall you are.
Yes. Yeah, it's good to be in the flesh for sure. Yeah, so before the report before you is for rezoning and OCP bylaw amendments at 5926 Shoal Way. This proposed amendment is to permit the future construction of 63 townhouse dwelling units on the subject property. As part of this development, there would be a required road dedication 20 meters wide for Reef Road, which would extend through the site to Gale Avenue South Road right of way. A parallel urban lane of 6 meters wide would also be dedicated. There would also be proposed ALR buffer covenant on the west and a portion of the north of the site, as well as a wetland area to be in a protected covenant. Part of the required amendments to the OCP and zoning bylaw, so there will be a site-specific OCP amendment to the existing residential designation to increase density from 35 units per hectare to 38 units per hectare. Further, rezoning is being requested as well on the property to rezone it from R2, which is low density residential, to R5, medium density residential with site-specific provisions. Specifically to increase the density from 35 units per hectare to 38 units per hectare to complement the OCP amendment, as well as reduce visitor parking from 13 spaces to 1, reduce front setbacks from 5 meters to 1.5 meters, reduce exterior setback from 3 meters to 1.5 meters, and to reduce the rear setback from 5 meters to 0 meters. This concludes staff's overview of the application. Should council have any questions, of course, staff are present to answer them to the best they can, as well as the applicant is in the gallery. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Council, now the applicant would like to, I know, first of all, we deferred this and I want to appreciate the applicant's indulgence in that from last week. So I know the applicant did want to make a short presentation. That's okay with council? Yeah. Okay, very good. Queuing up presentation, I believe. So, excellent. All right, floor is yours, Mr. Shirley.
Almost.
Slight delay on the broadcasting. Anyway, there we go. Thank you and good afternoon, Mayor and council members. As I think you all know, my name is Aidan Shirley. I'm a development manager with City State representing the owner for this application at 5926 Shoal Way. Our application is for an OCP amendment and rezoning to allow 63 townhouse units on the site, as well as to provide significant road dedications and environmental covenants to the district. This is our third active project in the neighborhood, following applications at 5981 Shoal Way and 5875 Reef Road, the rezonings for both of which were adopted earlier this year. The development permit for 5981 Shoal Way is ready to be considered by council, hopefully at your next meeting. And for the project on Reef, we're presently waiting for the change approval from the province to allow the watercourse and riparian restorations to move ahead. This approval typically takes 12 to 18 months, but both projects will be moving forward as soon as possible. The one on Shoal Way could be ready as soon as summer 2026 for occupancy. But our focus today is on 5926 Shoal Way at the north end of Reef Road, shown on the map on the screen. The site is surrounded by amenities, including schools, parks, sports fields, a church, and a daycare, and is also close to the number 3 bus route, which runs to downtown. Following a meeting with planning and engineering staff last fall, our architect established this site plan with a focus on providing building facades along Reef Road that present a friendly streetscape at a human scale. The resulting configuration includes a public laneway dedication roughly parallel to the Reef Road extension, which provides garage access at the rear of these units rather than the frontage along Reef Road. Due to the extensive areas of land being dedicated and hundreds of meters of new property lines created as a result, we are requesting setback variances to accommodate the proposed townhouse units on the smaller remainder portions of the site. In addition to over an acre of road dedications, an additional 1.1 acres of ALR setbacks and environmentally sensitive areas will be protected by covenant and or dedicated to the district. Like our project at 5875 Reef, the owner is open to either ownership tenure for the ESAs based on feedback from staff and council. There are 33 on-street parking spaces in our preliminary design of Reef Road. We anticipate utilization of this public parking to be well below capacity based on surrounding land uses, including ALR parcels, which is why we are proposing just one on-site visitor parking stall, which is designed to an accessible standard compared to the 13 parking stalls that are required in the zoning bylaw. In addition to setback and visitor parking variances, we are requesting a modest increase in density from 35 to 38 units per hectare. I have previously noted that the current density regulations in the R5 zone specifically incentivize larger and therefore less affordable units, and this variance request does allow us to provide more units that will be more attainable for families. As mentioned, there are 0.86 acres or over 37,000 square feet of environmentally sensitive area that includes a pond and extensive mature trees and shrubs. At present, there are no modifications proposed within this area, which means that a lengthy change approval process will not be required for this project as it is for 5875 Reef. Protecting these lands will allow them to return to a more naturalized state with limited access under the riparian areas protection regulation. Again, these lands may either remain with the property to be maintained by the strata or dedicated to the district. Our proposed landscape design focuses on fire resistance and drought tolerance, minimizing reliance on valuable water resources. Several rain gardens and other permeable treatments throughout the site maximize groundwater regeneration. And of course, native plantings are prioritized and would be maintained with drip irrigation. You'll find them in your agenda package, but these are the 4 floor plans. They range from 1,180 to 1,500 square feet and from 2 to 4 bedrooms. All units have at least 2.5 bathrooms and are provided with spacious living and dining areas, perfect for families and other larger household structures. All units include storage space and mechanical rooms in the garage, as well as generous patios and balconies, which do meet the intent of the zoning bylaw and DPA guidelines. While it is a bit early to consider form and character for this project, these are some sample elevations that show sort of a modern West Coast inspired aesthetic. We welcome council's feedback on these as we go through the rezoning process so that we're ready to integrate your feedback when we get to development permit. Thank you for allowing me to present. I do believe we have our architecture team from Applin and Martin online available to answer questions as well. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Shirley. Council, you've heard our staff report and applicants' contribution. Councillor Inkster, you're on.
I have some structural questions to the development specifically, next round if, after council's asked other questions. I just have some questions about the environmental piece that was mentioned there, protected area. It doesn't look like it's going to be developed and or much work done to it, leaving it in its natural state. I would just wonder why we wouldn't develop that put a couple of trails through that from the development, in order to, if it's got families in it, then they can travel, maybe they can travel up through that development up to the road quicker to go to school and the arena, golf course, Kinnickinnick Park. So, they obviously said that they wouldn't do that as part of that plan. But why wouldn't would the district work with them to put trails through that? A number of years ago, we built connectivity trails in that area. We all know about them. We've seen them around the arena. We spent a lot of money on it. But this is all about, I think our plan as municipalities have linear connectivity throughout the municipality. So that piece is missing in my mind. Thanks.
Okay, I'll take that as a comment for staff and perhaps the applicant for now. Are you asking them to? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So it's just, do you want to offer something, Mr. Shirley? Okay, and then we're gonna kick you out of that chair pretty soon, so.
Understood. Through the chair, I'll start and then probably turn it over to staff. There are essentially two regulations at the provincial level that apply to these sorts of areas. One is the Water Sustainability Act and the other is the Riparian Area Protection Regulation. The Water Sustainability Act is what we dealt with on Reef because we were making changes within stream channels and wetlands and things like that. That's not what we're proposing for this project. I actually walked the site today and there's sort of a small, actually, I think there's a picture of it on one of the slides. There's sort of a small dock, I guess, that's been built, so to speak, in the pond and a small structure. So the extent to which the area would be restored to its natural state would probably equate to just removing those potentially. But insofar as improving it for public use, I don't believe that either provincial regulation allows much to be done within certain setbacks from these features, and that's why we're not proposing anything. I'm not 100% clear on that, and we can circle back perhaps after I speak with our consulting biologist. But within 10 meters of a stream and 15 to 30 meters of a wetland, it's very limited in terms of what we're actually able to do to improve the land.
Great. I understand, yeah. New rules, I suspect, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, maybe I
Baker.
can also
Yeah.
add to that. Actually earlier this week we did do a little site visits and where we discussed with Parks, engineering was there as well, about possibly having some sort of public pedestrian network going through there and then running along the backside, along the hill or buffer to connect, I believe it would be Gale Avenue down to the south yeah, the road there. So there are conversations. We're still trying to determine that. We are looking at maybe coming up with a couple options, respecting the riparian area, but also you know, incorporating something like with the development siting issues that could result from trying to put a trail in between the proposed townhouses, the lane, and then also the natural features here. So that's something that we're actively working on behind the scenes, so to speak, with Parks and Planning. So we just haven't come to a conclusion yet, but we are discussing it.
Great, and I mean, this is before us for first reading, so I think be lots of chance to refine this. Yeah. Counselor Bell, we need, sorry, Counselor Bell.
Yes, through, are we done?
Yep, yep, please.
Oh, through the chair.
Mhm.
My question, just a clarification on the parking. So 33 parking spaces, as you said, the availability of 33 on-street parking spaces renders the provision of off-street visitor parking spaces redundant and burdensome. So you're going from 33 or 13 to 1. Is that what my understanding is? One visitor parking spot on site? Or how does that work?
Well,
Sorry.
yes, you need to because Counselor Rowe is not in the room.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, we are proposing a variance for visitor parking stalls. The zoning bylaw requires 0.2 visitor parking spaces per townhouse unit, so our requirement rounds to 13. We are proposing one on site, and then there would be 33 street parking spaces that would be constructed by the owner and dedicated as part of the Reef Road right-of-way.
Mhm.
We're still meeting the requirement for on-site parking for resident use, which is 2 per unit, and every unit has a 2-car garage.
Okay, so that's 2 per unit for the.
For resident
right,
parking,
Thank
yes.
you. Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Inkster, I just wanted to keep moving. Is there something else you wanted to add? Something?
Yeah, I just, it's also flood control in that, with that particular water course, so, you know, we just have to take this seriously, how we negotiate, these public, you know, these environmental, water courses within our community, because it's how we're gonna control some of our, storms in future and our flood control if we do it properly, thanks, on that one issue, so I hope
Right.
they.
Okay, thank you. Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes, thank you, the chair. I'm just concerned as Councillor Inkster is about this being or not being conservation design. I do believe you need a buffer of some sort to, in terms of design, to perhaps have walkways or have some kind of multi-use area to protect the stream that's there. So this doesn't really meet with conservation design because you're just putting aside area that you can't develop on anyway at all. So that's not really adding to conservation design. Also, I'm wondering if you could tell me the dollar per square foot you might see construction at for this project? Or on top of that, I would like to see a pro forma for this project to understand, you know, what the balance is between the profit and the amenities that are being offered for this project. I don't know, I feel that it needs to be designed much more with a sustainability lens. As for the parking, even though parking in an urban area, you might say there's street parking, but honestly, what I find here is that it's quite a rural area and people do drive and they do need their cars. And I would like to see you try and work some visitor parking more so into some kind of multi-use space or buffer area that could be used in part of the development design. Now, in terms of it being townhouses, and again, the pro forma would be interesting because from what I've heard from the housing report we just had, it seems to me that for our seniors population, townhousing is not really, from my experience, also doing a real estate appraisal, townhousing is not really something that seniors want to buy. They need, you know, accessible type of properties. And so the market for this, I'm afraid, I want to make sure that it does not become vacation homes or part of a resort development because, or on timeshares or anything like that, because that would be really, really, I think, sad for our community to have it become transformed into that. I know it's near the golf course, you know, they might be oriented towards views. But again, I am concerned about land speculation being the real winner here rather than the community being winner. Again, I've called in terms of paths and that, I've called for having some kind of neighborhood design for this area. Again, it's not there, so we're doing everything on a piecemeal basis. which again, does not help with the conservation design. So I would like to see them work more with some designers on how to do conservation design and make this, at least this part of the area, something that we can, you know, really support on many levels. And perhaps provide some social housing because it's very close to the school. That's an ideal place to provide housing for small families, social housing for single parents, as we just heard again in the report, that that is a real need. And again, you know, we need to have an idea who's going to live there so that the school district can plan their schools accordingly, because we don't want to find that we've created a overcrowding problem and not foreseen it coming. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. A lot in there. I think the things I would look to comments are the parking question, which was related to, I recall, the whether that's the best location for parking, being on the street, or if there's a different part of the development. You've got a comment on that? Please.
Thanks for the questions. Through the chair, with regard to the provision of on-street parking, when we met with planning and engineering staff, almost a year ago this week, one of the topics of conversation was the road cross-section for the extension of Reef Road. And we discussed, you know, a potential variance to the subdivision bylaw to allow a 16-meter or 17-meter right-of-way. Ultimately, it was decided that it should be built out to the full local road standard, which is 20 meters. That does include street parking. So the direction that we've gotten from staff is that the parking should be there one way or the other. And then, you know, working under that assumption, we've sort of looked at the surrounding land uses and the uptake for that parking and come to the conclusion that it would be somewhat redundant to provide more visitor parking on the site when it's, the site is fairly well connected to the sidewalk. It's not like you have to walk hundreds of meters to get from a street parking space to one of the units. So that's how we came up with the parking design. Not something that I highlighted really in the presentation, but the financial planning for the road, it was also expected from staff that the owner would pay for that road extension. Now, we don't have a detailed cost estimate for that yet. I did have a phone conversation with our civil consultant that designed the preliminary Reef Road extension and the lane, and you know, just putting some unit numbers together. A very, very rough calculation is that it's probably in the order of a $2 million capital investment borne by the owner of the site and dedicated to the district. So in terms of project viability, I don't think there's any question that this project is as constrained as just about any in terms of being able to financially perform, even with the modest increase in density that we're requesting in the OCP. So
Thank you.
that would be
I
my
think
res-
you've
yeah.
gone a little further, which is fine and
Fair.
appreciated. The other one that I heard was the type of housing, and I have the same kinds of questions. What's the driver behind this mix of housing that you presented compared to seniors, more appropriate for old timers like me, or any other types of housing?
Thank you again for the question, to the chair. I mean, this is an area where townhouse for larger parcels like this one, it's about 4.2 acres, is really the highest and best use. We did talk about, given the constraints on the geometry of the site with the road dedications, if a slightly higher use like a low-rise apartment or something would be considered here, that generally, you know, didn't seem to be in the favor of staff. So, you know, we've gone with townhouse because it seems to be consistent with the vision for the neighborhood in the OCP and previous developments. You know, to provide accessible housing in a ground-oriented form is difficult because, you know, you're looking at stacked town housing or something like that. Then the question becomes, where do you put the parking? If it's underground, it becomes a more expensive build. So the use of the land seems to tend towards townhouse.
Okay, thank you. I think that's the best answer at this stage. Sorry to staff, I should know this, but has this gone to APC at all? No, not as yet. Thank you. Council, other questions? I guess the thing I wanted to comment on is not, I'm in favor generally of density. I think it's better than sprawl, and we all agree that we need more housing. So I'm in favor of this, but something that's nagged at me for a long time, and I guess it was in 2012 that late Councillor Doug Hockley said, we've got to pave Mason Road, we've got to pave Heritage. The logic of that was to provide a second access and even in theory, better transit, because the transit could go in a circle rather than up here and then up there. We ran into this problem with the on Reef Road when the culvert failed 6 months ago, and fortunately our staff and contractors were able to get onto it and fix it, and it wasn't too many days. But this is still a choke point. So this is not in any way a criticism of anybody, but I guess I'm curious, how are we, and this is more for staff now, take this away, don't answer it right now. What are the plans? Because it's fine to propose a connector between Reef and Gale, but I need to get from here to this development, and we've only got one road at the moment. And I see Mr. Hall is obviously ready for that question.
Thank you, Council. It is a good question and something that planning and engineering have been talking a lot about more recently. Obviously, the transportation master plan project is still underway, but as part of that project and looking at a lot of the development applications we have in this area, it's something we looked at in terms of the opportunities for either new arterial connections, which is somewhat limited, or just increasing the number of local road connections. So in terms of this particular site, it became apparent to us that requiring the extension of Reef Road through the property was certainly necessary, in that we have existing dedication coming from the north from Ripple Way that sort of borders the northern corner of this property. So extending Reef Road through this property would link up with that existing road dedication, allowing us to construct a local road from Shoal Way all the way through to Ripple Way, which then terminates at that Gale Avenue South and Ripple Way intersection. So in this area, we're kind of looking at more local connections. There's not a lot of opportunities to put in a brand new major arterial, but we can get more local roads. So, Fairway Avenue at some point will need some improvement, but if we get this connection through, then that's another local road connection through. And at the same time, in some of the previous applications we looked at, sort of Shoal Way down to sort of Reef and Trail, you have the extension of Trail Avenue, the connection of Lighthouse South, and that being a more major connection north and south in addition to Reef Road. So there's a few opportunities here, but some of these.
Because it's that point that it's south of the project and south of
Yeah.
Ripple, of Shoal, that I'm curious about. So you've got, you're thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, the main connection opportunity would be extending Lighthouse south from Shoal Way, linking up with the extension of Trail from the Reef Road intersection.
Right.
And that being a major new.
All right, thank you. I wasn't to put you on the spot as much as to flag it, but so we had Councillor Toth and then Councillor Ings.
Thank you. Just to sort of follow up on that with the connectivity piece, and it was only sort of in listening to this and looking forward to seeing the transportation master plan draft when it comes forward to us. In hearing the descriptions about the connections, I guess it's intended that this would be sort of a lower speed road. I heard the comment that there's
We're
really.
now talking about the Reef Road
I'm talking about the
extension?
Reef Road extension through this property. I heard the comment made, there's not really room within the properties in the area to sort of develop a new arterial. So the one thing I did notice missing from the road design, so to speak, I know it's early days, of course, is bicycle access. Whether it's lanes, whether it's shared roadway. Just wondering if there was any conversation or discussion about that. Thank you.
Anybody?
Not in detail, but certainly active transportation is a big component of the new transportation master plan, and in terms of the new subdivision bylaw and road cross-section standards and design, Obviously, there's a big components of coming up with a variety of designs that incorporate more opportunities for active transportation in different ways. So it would definitely, we're not at the detailed stage yet for this particular project, but definitely it would be something we'd be looking at requiring as part of that. And there's obviously a big opportunity to provide it. The main intent is this extension of Reef Road ultimately through to Ripple Way provides connectivity, and that is for all forms, whether we're looking at cyclists, vehicles, or pedestrians.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Inkster?
Thanks. I think the paving of Mason is meant just a longer drag strip and more access for the kids to party up at the mines, but nevertheless, the issue that is in front of us is, when you look at the proposal and because now we're talking about, I think we're to form and character and we move away from the environmental pieces. The piece that the proposal that's being presented to us in the particular look of the development, it kind of looks like, it reminds me a little bit of Ani, which is fine. And in that, I'm wondering if there's views because of its positioning on the hill and that it does, like Ani, try to take advantage of that. My only concern though is once again, I don't see any colors. Because it's all about oh, there it is on that one. Okay. Okay, interesting. Anyway, the thing is that I love the roof lines on the one particular proposal, but on the other one, it just seems too uniform. That one there. Just as a critique of it, kind of looks like a wall. But anyway, those are just my concerns. I know you probably, other than the existing roof lines and the ones that have up and down roof lines, that's set in stone, and I'm sure the other one is. It's just my concern for the final look of it, because I think what council's role is in all this is trying to help people design a livable community. So those are my initial thoughts. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, folks? We have recommendations on page, well, sorry, I'm looking at 2 weeks or last week's. What page is it on in today's agenda? 3, thank you. So how would you like to proceed, council? I don't think we have a motion as yet. Yes, but nobody's moved it. Councilor Rowe, thanks.
I'm trying to move it.
I heard you trying to move it.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of those? Councilor Rowe, thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded. Okay, Councilor Toth will speak to it.
Thank you. Just a real quick one. As part of 5D, I guess I have heard or read something or heard in the presentation a little bit about rain gardens, natural plantings, that sort of thing. When we require applicants to confirm their water demand reduction, is that something that we put a quantitative target on? Or are we just looking for their suggestions, their inspirations of technologies of solutions that might go towards water use reduction? Thank you.
Yeah, good question. How do we know that they have confirmed their water demand reduction? What is success on that? Any comments from the team?
Sure. I think in general, we haven't set any quantitative targets. Some applicants have committed to quantitative targets and others have not. They've just simply committed to installing certain measures. But no, the district has not mandated any particular requirements unless the applicant has volunteered it in the first place.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Councilor Inkster.
Yeah, thanks. I had my earlier questions and points, but I'm going to be supporting this because it's some mixed housing within the urban containment boundary, and we are looking for that, although I don't know the final pricing of those houses because there's a number of different sized units. So I guess it's all about the pro forma, but it's within the urban containment boundary, so and it's needed housing, so I'll be supporting it. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Okay, anything else, council? Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Councilor McLaughlin is opposed. The motion carries Thank you. So then we go to item 4.2. Oops. Oh dear, oh, whoops. So, darn, so, sorry, yep. Thank you. Maybe I can ask. Sorry, folks, I'll catch up. Okay, so we've got the bylaws. Computer always slow when you least can afford it. Okay, so we, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, we're on page 37. And this is for first reading of bylaw number 492, 38, 2024. Motion and seconder, and second on the screen. Discussion, all in favor of first reading? Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. And then we go to the zoning amendment bylaw number 5. This is on page 39, and bylaw number 580-15, 2024. Again, for first reading. So first, second, moved, seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Yes? So, motion. No, that's on, you're on last week's document. It's the bylaw here for this, for Shoalway. 580-15, 2024. So I've called the question. All in favor, if I could see them again, please. Opposed? Councillor McLaughlin is opposed. The motion is carried. Okay, now I think I can go to item 4.2, which is the resolution from North Vancouver regarding the Black Bear Cub response. And council, we did discuss this and we had input last week. Anybody have a, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Toth, thank you.
We've never really discussed as a council in the 2 terms I've been doing this about endorsing resolutions that are coming to UBCM. However, given the public interest in it and the citizen popularity of this resolution, I will put forward a motion that the District of Sechelt Council supports the resolution titled Black Bear Cub Conflict Response by British Columbia Conservation Officer Service.
So that's as on page 42 of our agenda, just for clarity. Yep. Okay, seconded. Okay, any discussion? Councillor Inkster? Clarification or?
Okay. I'm just not clear where this, how this is being presented to us because I haven't looked at that agenda yet. I'm wondering if it's part of the more recent approach of the UBCM to put it as part of what I would call a block or an omnibus presentation of resolutions, which means most likely it's endorsed by UBCM and or we don't necessarily have to speak to it. And if it's pulled and or it sits separate from the other resolutions that are in a block just based on the time available at the convention, that then we necessarily have to speak to it, which means that this is fine. We just have to make sure we keep an eye on it and speak in support of it when it comes up. But it could just go as part of an omnibus and we don't, and it could happen where it's just part of a larger block and it's passed. I hope the supporters understand that what happened to that? Well, it could be passed as part of what I call an omnibus bill. That's just my thought. I don't mind supporting
No,
it.
that's
Yeah.
how it works at UBCM,
yeah.
of course. So, yeah, I think you're right to say we need to be vigilant if it's coming forth for discussion. I think the spirit of this motion is that one of us would presumably speak on behalf of council saying we support it. So, well, we could all run for them, see who gets to the microphone first. Okay, any discussion, Councillor Todd?
Thank you. Just really quickly, I Googled the UBCM resolutions booklet. And it is coming up as NR 53, which means it's part of the no recommendation. So it will be voted on separately from the blocks.
And the mayor of North Van did tell me a week or so ago it was in the first tranche. So as we go through the week, it'll be early. Okay, any other questions on the motion? Not? Your microphone and.
Yeah, just that's a little bit problematic, but I guess we'll just have to speak to it.
Not sure, I don't follow that.
Well, if it's pulled, then it means that, if it's pulled to be separated, it means that it's not, and I would just surmise that it's a controversial motion, but we'll see.
I see.
We'll
Okay,
see.
well,
Yeah, otherwise
okay.
it just gets endorsed by the UBCM as a larger block of 30
Indeed, no,
recommendations. Yeah.
understood. So
yeah.
there is some, presumably the executive wasn't prepared to bring it in a block. So yes, there'll be some discussion. Councillor Toth?
Thank you. Just for the adoring fans listening at home, the no recommendation section doesn't necessarily mean that it's controversial or that the executive didn't want to make a decision on it. It can also be that UBCM hasn't voted on a resolution similar enough to this in the past. A lot of the endorse and not endorse blocks are resolutions that they're basically regurgitated from previous years. They're things that UBCM feels they need to advocate on multiple times in multiple years. And so this is coming up, I guess, because it's not something that's received a resolution in the past. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, well said. Okay, I'm going to call the question. All right, all in favor? Carried. All right, then council entertain a motion to go into closed session under sections 91 Alpha, Charlie, we're not doing Edward, India, Kilo, and Lima. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Carried. All right, thank you, everyone.